Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to be doing part 2 of the UFC striker tier list. Now, I heard your comments from the last video, and the first part of this tier list is going to be adjustments that I will make, points that I will concede, and I will admit when I have a bad take. I had 2 bad takes in the last video. One of those is Volkanovski was at the top of C tier, and Pantoja was above Volkanovski. I will concede my point. Yeah, that was a bad take. Yeah, I'm not even gonna lie on that one. Next up, Wonder Boy was middle to low A tier. I moved him up to S tier. The more I think about it, the more I have to admit, Wonder Boy has made an entire career off of his striking. He was never a crazy grappler, similar to like an Alex Pereira. And if I do think about where my placement of Alex would be, it would be hypocritical for me to put Wonder Boy at low A tier for making a career out of his striking and his kickboxing pedigree, but to put Alex Pereira higher than Wonder Boy, when Alex Pereira really has done the same thing. Now, I will probably put Alex Pereira and Wonder Boy near the same level. The one thing I would say about Alex Pereira, and we'll get later on in the video, is the caliber of opponents that he has fought in his UFC tenure. So the first part of this video, I'm just going to be doing some adjustments, starting from F tier, going up to S tier, and mistakes. This will be the adjustment part. Timestamps is going to be in the video down below. Skip ahead, see what changed. Number 1, Brian Ortega's F tier. I'm sorry. There was like one person that disagreed with me on this, but it's not that they disagreed with me on Brian Ortega being an F tier, is that they wanted Patty to be below Brian Ortega. Honestly, I can't do that. And when I meant by Brian Ortega having a close fight with Volkanovski, I meant the submission attempt. Yeah, no, outside of that, Volkanovski was piecing bro up. Like, that's part of his placement. Yeah, no, got pieced up by Max Holloway. Pieced up by Volkanovski, was getting beaten up by Yair Rodriguez before getting submitted. Yeah, he got submitted. Yeah, I'm sorry. Like, that's the placement. Bro's also ranked number 5. He's fighting this weekend. Yair Rodriguez is going to finish off what he got started. Still F tier. D tier. This one was probably one of the least controversial. Most people agree with Colby Covington being in D tier and Paddy Pimblett being in D tier. Fair enough. Like, no one really disagreed with me on there. They just said Paddy should be in F tier. He might be. He might. But at the same time, maybe a few more fights, he gets pieced up a few more times. If Renato Moicano absolutely boxes the hell out of him, yes, no, I'll put him in F tier. But until then, D tier. C tier. Now we start getting into the controversial bits of my last video. We agreed on Neal, Gilbert Burns, Arnold Allen, Chito Vera, Bobby Green, Pantoja, and Dustin Poirier. I moved Pantoja from low B tier down to C tier, and Moreno up to B tier. Dustin Poirier being in C tier, everybody. I did not cook with this one. This was a hot take, admittedly. And a fairly bad one on my account. However, he is not A tier. I will not concede my point that far. He is not an A tier. I actually think Dustin Poirier is slightly overrated. Okay, let's be real here. He is probably one of the better journeymen of lightweight. Yeah. Best boxer in the UFC? No. Okay, like I would probably say he's in like late, like down on those rankings as well. Good striker, not C+. I will move him. Dustin Poirier is a better striker than Kai. That's fair. Better than Moreno. Fair. Better than Islam. If we go striking for striking, Islam's actually underrated in his striking. Okay, how about this? I will move... Dustin Poirier will be above Moreno and Kai Kara France for a B-. Islam Makhachev will also be B. Charles Oliveira outstruck Dustin Poirier. Islam Makhachev and Charles Oliveira. Nope, I'm not getting into this. I'm being confirming on that placement. JDM is one of our better boxers. But I do believe his placement is fair. A lot of people want me to put... If we're going off the Jeff Neal performance, and you know what? I will be that petty. I'll put Safkat above Ian Gary. Just because of the Jeff Neal performance, and I expected Ian Gary to win, but I expected him to win by a comfortable decision and not a split. So that performance alone, I'll put Safkat above him. Yair Rodriguez. Yair Rodriguez is better than Rafael Fiziev. In execution, I would argue Justin Gaethje's better than Yair Rodriguez. That's something that I kind of lost the plot halfway through the first video, is I had a habit of rating people's striking ability, not as much off of the effectiveness, but that's where I lost the plot. Yair Rodriguez, I will put him above Rafael Fiziev. I think Rafael is a great Muay Thai fighter, and I think that's where I put him into that mid-B tier. Justin Gaethje, in effectiveness, I believe, is above a Yair Rodriguez. Alexander Volkanovski. I moved him from low B, or it was a high C, to a very high B+. I might actually move him to an A-. I will move him to an A-, and I'll bring Edson Barboza down to a B+. Edson Barboza, for as old as he is, went down a division and is still competitive. Like, I don't think people understand just how difficult that is to do. And for that reason, I want to give him that recognition. B+. Volkanovski can be A-. Ilia Topuria is just better than Volk at what he's good at. I know some people are going to say, well, that does bring down my Max Holloway. I have to do that. I'll have to bring down Max Holloway. I think Max Holloway altogether... Ilia Topuria is better than Volk in the striking department. By that reasoning, I have to pull down Max Holloway. I do. But I also think Volkanovski has grown a style to fighting people that are built similar to Max. Like, he's had 3 fights with Max Holloway. The second fight was very close. It wasn't until the third fight where Volkanovski, after he's figured out the timing and patterns of Max Holloway, that he was able to get it done. I will do it there, but it's very close. I think also Petr Yan. I also maintain it. The biggest problem with Petr Yan is his pace is just not good for a sport MMA. He gets better as the fight goes on, unless he's fighting Merab Dvalishvili, who legitimately needs to be tested every second of every single day for EPO, because it makes absolutely no sense. I am not hating on Merab Dvalishvili. Take it as a compliment. Your cardio is so good, it literally doesn't make any sense. It's a compliment. The Georgians came after me a few videos ago. Petr Yan. I'll put Petr Yan above Leon. Maybe I'll change that halfway through. S tier, Corey Sandhagen and Wonderboy. I'll maintain it. I'm a Corey Sandhagen fan. Maybe I'm a little biased there. I'll admit that. As far as this, I think I'm on point. Now, the adjustments are over. Let's get into the later part. I added a few. Kevin Holland and Kamaru Usman. I might have to add more. There might be a part 3 to this video if there's enough fan uproar. But, well, let's get into this. Kevin Holland. Where do I put Kevin Holland? Kevin Holland got outstruck by JDM. Got outstruck by Wonderboy. But Wonderboy is in our S tier. JDM is in our mid-B tier. The one thing I will say about Kevin Holland is I'm not the only person to have this take, admittedly. But Kevin Holland, as much as I like the dude, I think he lacks a little bit of the dog in him. Just a smidgen. I think part of like him basically having a podcast in the octagon is more of a coping mechanism than anything. Like, when he did that post-fight press conference where he talked about how his goal was never to win the belt, brother, that is the biggest cope I have ever heard. If you are legitimately fighting in the UFC at the highest level and fighting for a belt is not even on your radar, you're in the wrong sport. I do believe that, and I've maintained that through the over a year that I've been doing content creation. If you are a UFC fighter that is not, that their goal is not to try to win the belt, you are in the sport for the wrong reasons. Kevin Holland. I will say Kevin Holland is a better striker than Jeff Neal, a better striker than Gilbert Burns, Arnold Allen, Chito Vera, Bobby Green, Pantoja. I will say better than Kai in execution. Moreno. Is he better than Dustin Poirier? Because I think he can beat JDM, but I think if you get into Holland's head, he will concede to a loss. Kevin Holland is very difficult to rate. He's like a Michael Johnson because you can't judge him off his peak. And for that, I will put him above a Moreno. Like, Kevin Holland is so aggravating to be a fan of because one second he shows real championship qualities, and the other second he looks slightly better than a can in the welterweight division. And I'm not even talking about the Khamzat Chimaev fight. I knew he was going to get destroyed by Khamzat. But I'm talking about in these fights like JDM. Like, he should have won that. Like, stylistically, he could have won that fight. He could have beat Wonder Boy. I just don't get it. Kamaru Usman. Okay. One person commented this. Actually, maybe two. Kamaru Usman is not a phenomenal striker. I wouldn't say he's terrible. I think he has crazy power, okay? Like, let's look through his championship run. I would argue his two most impressive wins were Gilbert Burns. No, and when I mean by impressive wins, I mean impressive wins when it came to striking. I'm going to say Kamaru Usman being able to outstrike Jorge Masvidal and beat Gilbert Burns. Gilbert Burns is our low C tier because I think he has the same problem. I think he has crazy power. I'll say Kamaru Usman's a better striker than Gilbert is, though. And Jorge Masvidal. Wake up to reality. Masvidal, at best, was a decent journeyman. He built a career off having the fastest KO and being good on the microphone. That's just facts. People don't disagree with me on that, but the Masvidal fight gets overrated. Especially, like, let's take into account the first Masvidal fight. Masvidal made it semi-competitive in a first fight on short notice that they did a second one where he got KO'd. Kamaru Usman, if we're going off striking pedigree, I would actually say he's above Jeff Neal. He's also coached by Trevor Whitman. He's better than Gilbert Burns. Arnold Allen might be better than Kamaru Usman. And actually, no. Arnold Allen's not as good as Kamaru Usman. I think the competition at I know the competition at bantamweight is more difficult than it is at welterweight. And the people... I'm thinking about the Dominic Cruz KO, honestly. The Dominic Cruz KO is the only thing that's keeping Chito Vera above Kamaru Usman. And Bobby Green's is slightly better than Actually, how about this? Bobby Green literally has made a career off having a Philly. He's just a lesser Sean Strickland when it comes to boxing and a little bit of the Philly cell. So I'm going to say Bobby Green barely. I might even move him above just later on, but Kamaru Usman has crazy power. Like, that's really it. Israel Adesanya, you have to put Israel in an A tier. Like, you kind of just have to. You might be able to argue an S tier. He is one of the old-time great strikers. Okay. There's going to be probably 4 to 5 S tiers in this one just because they are probably like the higher epitome of striking. I will put Israel in our S tier. The thing is the more I think about it, the one thing that you could add as a stipulation is the Strickland. Actually, the Strickland fight might actually pull him down. How about this? Israel is an A+. Don't get me wrong, Strickland's not an S tier either. Okay, let's go through it, and maybe I will push him up the S tier. Israel Adesanya. Contender Israel Adesanya is legitimately a different human being. That's an S tier. The Robert Whittaker fight looked good in the first one. The second one was arguable, but still outstruck him. Marvin Vettori outstruck him. The Calvin Gastelum one's a weird one because Calvin Gastelum should not have been able to do as well against Israel if in the striking department as he did. Sean Strickland, very bad performance. But I also can't take it out of like, Sean Strickland has the perfect style to fight somebody like Israel. And I think some people are going to expect Strickland to be super high up on this list. And don't get me wrong, he will be very high. Strickland's not an S tier. But Strickland, I think Strickland's just a perfect matchup for Israel. If you look at how defensively sound Strickland is compared to everybody else Israel's fought people that are very similar to a Robert Whittaker and a Dricus du Plessis, very similar to those types of opponents. And I think that kind of pulls up his striking pedigree, even though it is already high. I wouldn't say he's the best striker in the entirety of the UFC. Okay. Israel Adesanya, A+. Now we're going into Sean Strickland. This is part of the reason that it go up. Strickland, a better striker than Israel Adesanya. Let's go over to the Strickland wins. Jack Hermanson, okay. Imavov, okay. Brendan Allen was before that. Israel Adesanya was probably one of the better ones. Got read like a book and KO'd by Alex Pereira. This is where the difficulty comes in because it's not like striking and striking. It's not like you're comparing apples to apples. There's different styles of striking that play very different into each other. Alex Pereira has the number of Sean Strickland, but Israel was able to KO Alex Pereira. And in the first fight was winning that fight. If that were to go to a decision, I probably would have given it to Israel Adesanya. I think stylistically, Strickland would probably beat Israel again. But if we go off straight... You see what I mean? How difficult this is. Because if I just put Strickland above Israel, then Alex Pereira has to go in S tier. By that reasoning. You see what I mean? This is how difficult this is. Okay, I will keep it like this for now because the more I think about it, Israel was having a difficulty with Jan Blachowicz. Jan is not a crazy good striker, but he was having difficulties with him. I'll come back to that later. Maybe that will be adjustment at the end of the video, but you see what I mean? Khamzat Chimaev. Just keep it basic. That's my biggest problem with Khamzat. Is Khamzat had success in the Gilbert Burns fight when he stopped trying to throw, just keep it with straight punches. Sometimes simple is better. Do I think he's a phenomenal striker? Absolutely not. It's his wrestling and his ability to drain his opponent and take them out early that gives him the edge. But he got dropped by Gilbert. But at the same time, was dropping Gilbert. I would say Khamzat Chimaev might be a little bit above. Khamzat Chimaev, probably is our mid-C tier. It's either his striking IQ is super low, or I don't know. I think he has good power. I think he has the ability to put people unconscious. I need to see more of his striking isolated, though. You see what I mean? I need to see more of it for me to adequately judge it. From what I've seen, he's barely better than Gilbert Burns, and he was getting outstruck at times by Kamaru Usman in the third. I can't put him at a low B tier. My hands are tied here. Robert Whittaker. Robert Whittaker is a good striker. Dricus should be in here. Oh, that might be one I have to add later on. Okay, Robert Whittaker. Just rating him by himself. Had a good fight with Paulo Costa. That was a good fight with Paulo Costa. I think he is... If you were to isolate any part of his striking, it would probably be a mid to low B tier. Every aspect of his game, I would probably say is mid to low B tier. There's nothing a part of his game, if we compare it to the upper echelons of the sport, that is ridiculously A tier. Aside from maybe his fight IQ is really good, but his ability to put everything together really helps him out. But if we're looking at purely striking, Robert Whittaker's probably going to be a low B tier, above a Kai Kara France, slightly above a Brandon Moreno, and above a Kevin Holland. Okay? How he's able to put things together is really good. I'm gonna say low B tier. Paulo Costa. Difficulty with Paulo Costa. Paulo Costa is built like a Baki character. So when he does hit you, he is going to put you down. But when we saw him fight strikers that are a similar skill level to him or a little bit higher, like an Israel Adesanya, he got schooled. Israel Adesanya schooled Paulo Costa. And the more I think, yeah. Like, I think Paulo Costa would lose to an Alex Pereira. I think Paulo Costa would have difficulty with somebody like Strickland. I think Paulo Costa, honestly, maybe is... Do I put him one spot above Robert Whittaker? That first round... he also has terrible cards. You see what I mean? Paulo Costa, I'm probably going to say, is one spot above Robert Whittaker. Barely. Dustin Poirier is also barely above him. But then Islam. I might be overrating the Islam Makhachev finish. I might. Okay, Islam Makhachev is going to go down. Yeah. Because a lot of the big justification I have to give for Islam Makhachev's placement is off the Volkanovski KO and the Charles Oliveira finish. But the thing is you have to take into account with the Charles Oliveira fight, is everybody was... Oh, that's another thing. People complained about the placement of Charles Oliveira, but, brother, he would get dropped before he would drop them. The whole reason that he was able to win these fights and stay alive is because Charles Oliveira's grappling is so good that people would drop him and not want to go for a TKO. Like, if he wasn't so wildly good at jiu-jitsu, Justin Gaethje would have won. Islam Makhachev is just good enough of a grappler that when he knew, I knocked him down, I can finish this fight. But if we go striking for striking, like, Charles Oliveira isn't going to be up there. He wasn't... If we go striking for striking, I think I'm going to have to move. I'll move Song Yadong there. Charles Oliveira is going to go down. Striking for striking, I would actually say... is near the same level as an Islam Makhachev, if not a little bit lower. And I know people are going to say, well, why is Dustin Poirier up here? Justin Gaethje's up here. Well, they would drop him first, and then Charles would be able... Nobody wants to go to the ground with Charles. That was the biggest thing that he had going for him. Next up, Jared Cannonier. A sleeper pick. Good fight with Robert Whittaker. He did beat Strickland. That was a contested decision, though. Like, you could... That's one of those where it's so close. Honestly, you can argue that the reason Jared Cannonier won is you can see damage easier on the skin tone of Strickland. I know that sounds weird. That's a real thing. If you're a judge and you're in the Apex, there's no fans, there's no uproar, and you're looking off of damage... Somebody with the skin tone, borderline albino look of Strickland is going to sow more damage than Jared Cannonier. That's a real thing. So Jared Cannonier, I think, is going to be up there in the striking. He did lose to Robert Whittaker. I'm going to have to say, just because of there, I will put Jared Cannonier just below Robert Whittaker, barely. I would like to see Apollo Costa versus Apollo Costa versus Jared Cannonier. Next up, Saraputin Magomedov. One fight in the UFC, however, I know there was going to be like one or two comments that were going to bring up Sara, like, oh, when he gets up there, he'll be up in there. Listen, Saraputin, admittedly difficult to rate. I do like his striking, though. Okay? I do need to see him against higher caliber opponents. Bueno Silva, I mean, Alex Pereira fought, not Bueno Silva. Why am I messing up his name? Okay, I'll have to put it in post. I don't know why I'm blanking out on that. But he looked good in this first fight. Do not go up at 185. Saraputin, do not do that. You will get humbled so quickly at 185 because by the time you get up in the championship contention, the division is going to be flooded with wrestlers that are going to take you down and submit you relatively easy. I will say this. Sara, just from what I've seen, is probably... I would put him at a Kai Kara France level. Yeah, I'd put him at a B- just because I do need to see a little bit more effective striking later on in his UFC career. Yeah, For now, as a placeholder, mid in the entirety of the UFC. Marvin Vettori. Durable. That might be a new thing. The next tier list that I do, I mean, I have a few other videos I need to work on, but the next tier list that I do might be best shins in the UFC. Marvin Vettori's definitely he might get an S tier. Because bro was eating all of the strikes from Jared Cannonier. And Jared can hit hard, dude. Eating all of it. But bro just walked through it. Don't get me wrong. Like, he's not a great striker. I would actually say Marvin Vettori is actually probably below mid. Like, I think Marvin Vettori would beat Putin, but at the same time, if we're isolating striking, I would argue Kamaru Usman utilizes more effective striking than he does. Arnold Allen does. He might be just above. Like, this is close. Like, Marvin Vettori's striking is just not great. Okay? It just isn't. Next up, Khalil Roundtree. We're going up in the light heavyweight. Okay, my biggest thing that I love about Khalil Roundtree is he is one of the few UFC fighters that utilizes body kicks to a grounded opponent. And it cracks me up whenever somebody does it. Especially if you do it in the Apex. You can hear the people there be like, wait, I thought that was illegal. In a crowd, it's even more funny. Because people will mix up the rule set. You're allowed to kick a downed opponent. You can't just... I can't kick you in the head. There's no soccer kicks, but I can drill you in the body, and I think more UFC fighters need to do it. Also, crazy oblique kick. Khalil Roundtree is one of the most violent UFC fighters I have ever seen, but genuinely seems like a cool dude. And for that level, he also destroyed Anthony Smith. Like, Khalil Roundtree's gonna be up there just because I do like his style. I'm a little bit biased towards there. Above Sar, yeah, because Khalil Roundtree has proven against super high level. Above Kai, yeah. Above Moreno, yeah. I would probably say he's a little bit above Kevin Holland. There you go. Islam's like the weird pick in this entire thing because I put him on here because of the Charles and Volkanovski thing. So he's probably going to be my weird pick of the entire thing. Alex Pereira literally has made an entire career of being a good kickboxer. It makes me lose faith in the middleweight and light heavyweight division. Because somebody that barely has any grappling pedigree was able to come up and become champion in not one, but two divisions. Beating out Jan Blachowicz, former champions. People will complain about him, oh, he was fast-tracked up. Being fast-tracked up the rankings is not a good thing if you aren't good enough to win. The reason that they did that is because he's 36 years old right now. You aren't going to have a lot of time with him. So you had to fast-track him up. He beat Israel Adesanya. He beat Sean Strickland, who later became champion. He beat Jan Blachowicz, who was a champion, and beat Yuri Prohaska, who was a champion. Now he's fighting Jamal Hill, who never lost the belt. Like, he's only fought... He is an S tier, honestly. And in MMA, he's utilized it more effective than Wonderboy. Now, if we're going kickboxing record, I would still argue, like, people will look at the record and it's like, Wonderboy went undefeated in kickboxing. Alex Pereira is the first guy to ever get into the Glory Kickboxing Hall of Fame. He is the first dude to do it. Double champion there. Like, and you'll look at the striking. I'll admit it. Wonderboy looks better when he is striking. So does Corey. So does Israel Adesanya. They all look better. Alex Pereira looks jolty. If somebody came into a kickboxing gym and looked like Israel Adesanya with the shadow boxing, we would think he was an amateur. But Alex Pereira, he makes his own rules. It makes zero sense, okay? You can argue, oh, well, it's power. Why isn't Israel above Alex Pereira? He KO'd him. Well, first off, this is at 185. I have no clue how he was able to go down. If they run it at 205, Alex Pereira clears. And Alex Pereira beat him 2 times in kickboxing. I understand one was close, but arguing Israel should be higher than Alex because of one close fight that could have gone to either one of them, but it went to Alex. Like, you see what I'm saying? That's a weird argument to make. Next up, Jamal Hill. He has crazy power. I would actually argue Jamal Hill hits harder than Alex Pereira, but striking pedigree. Like, here's the thing. I have to put him at a low A tier. Yeah. I'm going to put him at a low A tier. I understand that's not going to make sense for some of these guys, but at the same time, like, Jamal Hill's been able to do... He has crazy power, and there is some good striking in there. Like, the thing is if you're going to separate power from the striking, then Alex Pereira is not that good. That's the problem we're going to run into when we're talking about these heavier guys. Is, are they actually good at kickboxing, or they just have power? That's a legitimate argument to make. But at the same time, Jamal Hill put on a masterclass against Glover Teixeira. The last person to beat Glover Teixeira like that was John Jones, dude. Okay? Like, we can agree on that. Jamal Hill put on a great performance against Glover. Retired him. I will put him in low A tier. I'll stand by that. Jamal Hill is grossly underrated, and I think if anybody has the power in that division to put down an Alex Pereira, it's Jamal Hill. Johnny Walker. Johnny Walker's just weird, dude. Okay? He's just weird. Like, there's a thing in UFC fighters where I feel like they do almost too much in the striking department. Like, let me give you a good example. Strickland and Johnny Walker. Let's make it easy. Johnny Walker is going to throw spinning heel kicks. He's going to throw... He's question mark kicks. He's going to throw some weird stuff. He's going to fake a liver saw and then throw a flying knee. He's going to do a lot of this extra stuff that takes more energy. But yeah, when it works, it looks cool. Strickland has a jab, a cross, a teep kick. But he utilizes that to such a high level that he was able to beat Israel Adesanya. Like, do you rate mastery? Like, that's the difficult... Like, Strickland's going to be above Johnny Walker. Make no mistake. I would actually argue Johnny Walker. Like, Johnny Walker is probably going to be... Yeah. I'll put him above Brennan Moreno, because Brennan Moreno's way more well-rounded and a better fighter, but Johnny Walker had to make a career in striking and then have a little bit supplemental stuff there. But he's a good journeyman with no chin. Sorry. Yuri Prohaska. Yuri's admittedly really good. I would actually probably say is an A-. Okay, I don't want to put Yuri above Jamal, but I kind of have to. If we're going off striking pedigree to striking pedigree, I would argue Yuri Prohaska is a better striker than Jamal Hill, and I think most people would agree with it. Hot take. Jamal Hill's a better fighter than Yuri Prohaska. It is a MMA mind virus. It makes zero sense the amount of people that just completely disregard what Jamal Hill was able to do against Glover and then look at what Yuri did against Glover and be like, with a straight face, look you in the eyes and say, Yuri Prohaska is a level above Jamal Hill. Okay. Yuri Prohaska was losing the Glover fight and was able to get a submission over him, which won him the fight. Glover was winning the fight. They were both catching each other. Glover was catching Yuri on the feet, and Yuri was catching Glover on the feet. Most of the damage, yes, was on the ground. Glover was catching him. Jamal Hill controlled just about every moment of the Glover fight. Dude, I might actually have to put Jamal... That Glover fight sticks out so heavily in my mind, I actually might have to put Jamal Hill over Yuri, because it is such a night and day difference. And then people will look at those two fights and be like, well, if Glover never fought Yuri, then Jamal Hill would have more trouble. Okay, now we're getting into semantics that make zero sense, because that's a fantasy land. We can argue all day. Dominic Reyes outstruck John Jones in the first 3. You see what I'm saying? Those are some semantics. Yuri Prohaska outstruck Dominic Reyes. John Jones had trouble with Dominic Reyes until later part of the round. The later part of the fight, I mean. Magomed Ankalaev. Magomed Ankalaev is feeling himself just a smidgen too much. You knocked out a chinny Johnny Walker. I didn't want to say it after the fight happened because I don't like shitting on fighters the moment after they win a fight because I don't want to take that win from them. However, when you have Magomed Ankalaev arguing that he's a better striker than Israel Adesanya and that will KO Alex Pereira because he's a bigger dude just because he was able to get a KO finish over Johnny Walker, you're feeling yourself too much there, dude. Chill. Okay? Like you see what I'm saying there? Ugh. That's a rant that I've been holding back. Magomed Ankalaev believes that he will outstrike Alex Pereira. Dude, just for that, honestly. I'll put you as a better striker. I might even put Johnny Walker. I don't know. Johnny Walker probably is a better striker than Magomed Ankalaev. But I think what the threat that Magomed brings with his grappling makes everybody on edge for a takedown. Moreno's probably a better striker. Sara's a better... Dude, yeah. Pantoja's probably a better striker. Damn, dude. Yeah, I got to keep bringing this down. I'll put Magomed Ankalaev at the same level as like a Hamzat. Like, you have power and you do have some really good fundamentals from training with Strickland. Yeah, that's what happened before the Johnny Walker fight. But at the same time, no, you are not a world-class kickboxer because you KO'd a chinny Johnny Walker. Okay? Let's chill. Nikita Krylov. It's small on my edge, so I can't really see it. Nikita Krylov. Wait, no. Rackets. I'm losing it, bro. Okay. Rackets. Rackets versus Yuri Prohaska. That's going to be an interesting fight. Where do I put him? He's admittedly good. Like, I'm going to have to put him at least at a mid-B tier. Okay? Now, I'm going to struggle to put him above somebody... Like, this is where we're going to hit our stalemate. Better than Sara. Sara hasn't been proven against high-level opponents. Better than Kai? Difficult. Better than Moreno? Probably. Better than Johnny Walker? Most likely. Better than Kevin Holland? A smidgen. Better than Khalil Roundtree? No. Yeah, Khalil's going to get done. No, Khalil will, I think, would beat Rackets. I think Rackets is good, but at the same time, from what I've seen, I kind of have to give the edge to Khalil. Just a little bit. The more I look at this, the more I got to move down Charles. But at the same time, I kind of have to stick to my guns there. Next up, Nikita Krylov. So in that same area, honestly, I would probably put Nikita Krylov just a little bit above a Kevin Holland. Yeah, I think this is your big three. I think these are pretty interchangeable, but at the same time, I think this is a good area for them. Jan Blachowicz. Jan Blachowicz looked really good against Israel Adesanya. I would actually probably put Jan. Jan's again going to be in a mid-B tier. I think Jan is a better striker than a Khalil Roundtree. Better than Charles. Yeah, better than Charles. Better than Islam? Yeah, probably. And I think that's where I'm going to have to put him. I'd probably put a Jan Blachowicz a smidgen above Islam Makhachev. I would like to see Jan fighting a few of these other guys over here. I want to see that fight. Jan Blachowicz versus Khalil Roundtree, I think, is a fight that I really want to see in the future. But Jan's getting old. That's another part. Are we judging? Yeah. Tai Tuivasa. It's heavyweight. He's a KO artist. He has power. Yeah. Like, heavyweights are admittedly pretty hard because, like, are you good at striking, but or are you a KO artist? Like, Tai Tuivasa. Like, if we're comparing him to the rest of the UFC, it's very difficult if we're doing it like a pound for pound. Like, better striker than Brian Ortega. Better striker than Patty. Better striker than Colby. He's utilized his striking. I would probably say a B. I'll put him above there. Wait. I'll put him up just beneath a Bobby Green. Like, if we have to do it pound for pound, like, the fact is if you take him down to these lighter weight classes, he's going to have trouble. Just because the barrier to entry to heavyweight is lower, like, skill-wise. And people like John Jones, Stipe, and Tom Aspinall, who if they went down to these lighter weight classes, like a middleweight, they would be fairly average. Okay, except for John. I'm talking about their striking. As far as their striking, like, people say Tom Aspinall moves like a middleweight. Yeah, he goes down the middleweight. He's going to be fairly average. So, yeah. That's where I'm going to put him. Heavyweights are actually very hard to rate just because you're going off KO power compared to their actual skill. John Jones. John Jones is an A tier. He is. Yeah, John Jones is an A tier, dude. Like, it's hard. It's very difficult to argue that he shouldn't be up there. The biggest problem that you would probably have would be like a Dominic Reyes and a Thiago Santos. But at the same time, he dominated Anthony Smith. He dominated Glover Teixeira, who later became champion. Like, negated the striking of Cyril Gane. Like, he's just so good everywhere. In fight IQ, he's an S tier. Like, it gets in the way of the other things, so I'm probably going to put John, okay. Striking for striking. Is he better than Edson Barboza? Probably not. In practice, he's more effective. In practice, he's more effective than a Yair Rodriguez. Justin Gaethje, just because it is at a better division than lightweight, I'm going to put him above. Very, very high B tier. He's B pluses and A's everywhere. His fight IQ is an S tier, and that's what makes him so good. The eye pokes bring you down. I'm just going to say it. Your eye pokes bring you down. Derek Lewis. That's tough. Derek Lewis, I mean, he has the most KOs at heavyweight. Made Francis Ngannou scared of him. Lost to Tai Tuivasa. Lost to Cyril Gane, who's a legit kickboxer. That's another problem we're running into. Like, are you a great striker or are you a heavyweight with power? There's a difference. Derek Lewis, I'd probably put is one step beneath Kamaru Usman. I think Kamaru Usman is in between both of them. I might even put Kamaru Usman above Tai Tuivasa. Just because welterweight's more difficult than heavyweight. That's not a controversial opinion. I've rated all the divisions. I actually think heavyweight's one of the worst divisions in the entirety of the UFC. Purely based off skill. Cyril Gane. Cyril Gane is a great kickboxer for heavyweight. I would put him above a Sara, above a Kai, above a Brandon Moreno, above a Kevin Holland. He looks good. I think when we start getting into these lighter weight classes, it becomes more difficult. I'll put him above Charles Oliveira, because Charles Oliveira just admittedly would get dropped. Islam Makhachev, barely. I would probably put him beneath a Yan, though. I think, yeah, I'd put him beneath a Yan. Sergey Pavlovich. Good striker. He's more well-rounded, though, than he is a great striker. Admittedly above a Tai Tuivasa. Is above a Derek Lewis, above these two. Yeah, I'm gonna have to put him above there. Yeah, I'll put Kamaru Usman above. I just can't with good conscience I'm not gonna disrespect Kamaru Usman even a little bit more than that. So that's where I'm gonna do. Stipe Miocic. Current Stipe, we literally don't know what he looks like. But Stipe Miocic, the Stipe that fought Daniel Cormier a couple times, the Stipe who was able to reign over heavyweight, is a fairly good striker. I will put him at the top of C tier. Almeida. Just because you're at D tier. Yeah, D tier. Yeah, I'm not. Nobody's disagree with me on that. And next up is Tom Aspinall. Very good. Like, he's good for heavyweight. Good for light heavyweight if it was at light heavyweight. Would be decent at middleweight. For that reason, I would actually put Tom Aspinall above a Jan. And he's very close to a Jared. I would actually put him above a Jared. I think he isn't as good as a Robert Whittaker in how he puts everything together. And I think... Okay. Wonder Boy S tier. I'll do a few S tiers. Okay. Who am I giving the S tier tickets to? Corey Sandhagen gets it. Fair. Alex Pereira. Fair. Wonder Boy. Fair. I will move... For defensive striking and how effective he does it, I will move Strickland up to an S tier. Israel Adesanya, based off his pedigree of work, I will move him up to an S tier. Sean O'Malley has great movement, just misses our S tier, though. Just misses it. If he's able to completely outclass Chito Vera and beat an Ilia Topuria or make it look really good, then I'll put him up to an S tier. I just need to see a little bit more out of him, okay? Just a smidgen more. And I think that'll be it for this part. This might be last part, might be next part. I will say this. It'll probably be a while before I would do a part 3 because, brother, I got an MMA Iceberg part 3 to do. I got the Gracie Lore video. I got all the BS that is happening in the MMA news right now. Like, I got a few stuff that I gotta make, and we got a chin tier list that's coming up. Like, we got a lot of videos that are coming up, so part 3, if there is a part 3, is gonna be on hold for a minute. But for now, this is your tier list. Last minute adjustments before the comment section goes for a crucifixion. I'm good with that. I'm good with that. The heavyweight placement is the most difficult one because, again, I've already stated it. Is the Islam one F's with me? The Islam one is the toughest one. Because at 1 second he beats Charles Oliveira and outstrikes him. Yeah. Okay. That one I might have to take the L on. Because Softcut goes above Ian Gary. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'll move a Justin Gaethje above an Edson Barboza. I'll move a Justin Gaethje to an A-, okay? That'll be my last minute adjustment before I'll let the comment section devour this. If you think there are any adjustments that should be made, go in the comment section down below. And if you provide a good point, I will make an adjustment for it. With that out of the way, I think that's going to be it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for the love and support that you give this channel. It means the absolute most to me. And with that out of the way, adios, guys.